let's go ahead and get started. And once again, thank you all for wherever you're joining from today, for joining our webinar today with Hostfully and Jervis Systems. We've got Bobby from Jervis Systems, founder and CEO, myself, Mitch Foster of Hostfully, and Lauren from Jervis Systems as well. So we've got a full crew here to present to you, and hopefully you'll ask some good questions, and we'll be happy to answer those questions intermittently throughout the presentation today. And we certainly will follow up with everybody after the presentation if you're interested in more information about any of the two companies today. So I'm going to cover a real quick overview of Hostfully. Hostfully helps vacation rental managers run their businesses and provide five-star hospitality to them. We offer, as many of you know, two different platforms. We've got our PMS platform, or property management platform, and our digital guidebooks. So on the PMS side, we work with many OTAs, including all the ones that we all know and love: Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, TripAdvisor. I think we have a total of 17 different platforms and channels that we connect with. We've finished our integration with Google Vacation Rentals, and we're in certification mode with them. And any day we expect to be able to offer Google Vacation Rentals as part of the Hostfully platform. So we're really excited about that. We have a unique booking platform and unified inbox, which gives our property managers a really easy way to manage all of their bookings or their leads. And then, of course, a unified inbox that captures all communications, whether it's emails, WhatsApp messages, or text messages from all your channels. So your direct booking channels, as well as any of the other channels that you've turned on. We also are one of the few PMSs that offer a direct booking site. We have a great out-of-the-box booking template that we provide that gives you some personalization capabilities. And if you've never had your own direct booking site, that's really what we want to help you focus on, is turning more and more of that traffic into direct bookings, so that's more profitable reservations for you. We've got a fantastic guest communications and automations hub, including text messaging, emailing, and WhatsApp messages. We've partnered with the three best payment processing partners in the world: WeThink and Stripe, PayPal, and Vacation Rent Payment. And we offer more with custom reporting, analytics, and a whole lot more other features that will help you run your business, whether you own your properties or you're a property management company. Lots of great features to help bring more efficiencies to your business and really help the business run on autopilot. That's really what we all want, is to spend less time managing our businesses, but we still want them to operate efficiently. And then we also have the digital guidebooks. We actually started as a digital guidebooks company, and we've won a bunch of awards for both of our platforms. The digital guidebooks, as many of you know, will help boost your guest experience, cut down on the number of communications back and forth, whether it be text messages or emails. You provide everything that people need to know about your property in the digital guidebooks. There's a fantastic way in our marketplace to upsell products and services to increase your profits. And we've also have some tools to collect emails and digitize certain documents and agreements that you might have, as well as DocuSign type capabilities. And the net result is that your digital guidebooks are going to lead to more five-star reviews for you. Okay, so two great platforms. They work independently of one another, but they also integrate together. And so they do pass information back and forth. And if you're like many of our customers, they use both products, and it just gives them the ability to personalize the information that goes back and forth between them. We've won a number of awards that we're very proud of in the industry. They're not Oscar awards, and they certainly didn't roll out the red carpet for us, but If you've been in the industry for a while, you know that the Keystone Awards are starting to become very well known. And Terry White said, one of the best softwares I have ever seen. That was really nice of Terry to say. The Shorties Award in 2022 was another great award that we captured. And so, knock on wood, that's really been a great boost to Hostfully, is getting recognition from our customers and from people in the industry as well. On the digital guidebook side, Erica is a great customer of ours. She's a property manager. She said, I'm totally blown away by the digital guidebook. They've saved me so much time, and it has been way more professional and modern than a Word document or a PDF file. And I couldn't agree with her more. The digital guidebooks are just a really professional way of presenting your business's brand, and the customization and the personalization opportunities are just immense. And so many of you have adopted those already. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about Hostfully today is our reports and webinars. So if you want to bookmark this page, hostfully.com/2022 report. This is where we've hosted a bunch of our research reports. You can see the future bookings report, maturity model, etc. A lot of research and a lot of documents that we put together on the industry as a whole. You'll find in this URL here. We'll remind you of this URL in case you don't want to take notes today with our follow-up email. But lots of great research on the industry as a whole. We're all trying to figure out how to become better property managers and better owners, and how to be more profitable. And there's so much going on in this wonderful industry that we're all a part of, that we're all just trying to soak in the information. I think about 65 to maybe 70% of Hostfully employees are actually property owners and managers themselves. And so that's why I use the term we. We're all trying to learn more and more as this industry evolves. Okay. So with that,
hey, Raj,
that is, yes.
I just want to throw out there real quick that link. We actually updated that just recently. So for everybody watching, I did post the actual link, the one that was on the webinar. That's not going to work. But if you look in the questions, that one will take you right to it.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Excellent.
No problem.
Okay. Well, that's enough about Hostfully today. We are really here to host this event, and we're so excited to introduce Jervis Systems today. Bobby is the CEO and founder of the company. And Bobby, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'm going to drive your slides for you today. So if you would be so kind as to let me know when you're ready for me to move forward, I will be happy to take that off your plate, and I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Roger. Hi, everyone. My name is Bobby Varghese. I'm the owner of Jervis Systems. My colleague Lauren is on the call as well. She's been with us for several years now. Lauren handles all of the communication, social media. She's the guru on that side. All right. So Jervis Systems, we recently updated our slogan to Property Automation Simplified. When Jervis started, we were doing access management. That was a key piece of what we were involved in. So that was smart locks, garage doors. But we started getting into smart devices, smart thermostats. Later this year, we're going to get into smart sensors and such. So the goal is to automate the guest access and smart home devices and try to make your life as a property manager as absolutely easy as possible, right? So our solution is cost effective, right? So we charge $5 a month per active device. So I think that is very competitive, very comparable to many of the others in the industry. We're very focused on responding to customer requests and improving our features based on customer needs, right? Rather than trying to do it all, we're very focused on giving property managers what they need to actually do their jobs, right? So that's a very important key feature that our team is very, very focused on. So we have very fast customer service. So you'll see responses from our team within minutes or definitely within an hour. And we treat everybody the same, right? Whether you are a property manager with one property or hundreds of properties, we treat you all the same. We don't have limitations either to sign up, right? So there is no limit to have a certain number of properties when you're signing up as well. We have several patent pending features as well. If you are more of an advanced user or real estate agent or teams that are collaborating, we have our own custom mobile app. We have the ability to call and unlock a door, right? Or open a garage door. You can do the same with the text message. You can text a number that we assign you, and you can execute commands that way as well. So we got a couple of patent pending features there as well. All right, I'm going to pause for a quick second here, or a few minutes or a few seconds here. Does anyone have any questions before we move to the next slide? Okay.
Anything
All right,
come
Roger.
in, Mitch? All right.
Nope, nothing, but we'll throw some out there if something comes up. So ask
Okay.
away, guys.
Awesome. All right, so this is the state of the rental industry. I'm not going to read all the stats here, but the bottom line is the industry is moving towards automation, right? As smart devices get smart enough to keep up with demands of property managers, we're seeing a huge uptick in property managers that are using smart locks, smart devices. I think the time is now, right? A couple of years ago, a lot of us were not as, unless you were very techie or very into smart devices, you were not really integrating them into your homes just yet because there was Wi-Fi adapters involved, there was hubs involved, right? So it took someone that really liked tech to be able to be involved. These vendors they've understood the challenges, they've simplified the devices, they made it so much easier to use. And we've seen an uptick in the last year, 2 years of the number of smart devices that are being used by property managers. And I think it's almost become a standard at this point that guests almost are looking for keyless access, right? They don't want to be trying to coordinate, trying to find the keys. They don't want to try to meet somebody to exchange keys and things like that. So this is the future. We want to help you get on board and be able to embrace the change and be able to service your customers. Okay, I'm going to pause there again for a quick few seconds. Lauren or Mitch, let us know if there's any questions there.
Yeah, we just had a quick question on when you say per device, they're asking, do you mean per connected smart device? Just clarifying that.
Exactly, yeah. So every smart device that which is in your Jervis Systems dashboard, that's what we charge for, right? So we charge $5 a month per active device. There's a couple of ways. I mean, we do have to pay licensing fees to the different vendors. So there's a small charge that we charge. It's $1 a month for disabled or inactive devices. And that's if the device shows up in your Jervis Systems dashboard. If it shows up in your dashboard, that's when our reporting back to Schlage or Yale or any of the vendors that we partner with, that's when they'll see that it's active with Jervis, right? So there's ways that we can show you how you can delete the inactive or disabled devices so that you don't show it doesn't show up in your Jervis Systems dashboard. And that way we don't charge you for devices that you're not actively using with your customers or with your properties. Does that answer your question?
I think that covers it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Roger, we can go to the next slide. All right, so there's the headaches of automation, right? You could do all this yourself if you have the smart lock. We encourage, if you have one property, I tell all our property managers, whether we're doing onboarding calls or if you send us a question, you can do this yourself. If you have the Schlage app, August app, or whichever vendor app, you can configure all this yourself, right? Where we come in is to try to ease your headaches or these headaches with automation. We try to streamline it so that it is completely automated. You don't have to be directly involved in having to see every aspect of it or double check it. We will send you notifications if there's errors or if there's issues with some of the automation triggering. I mean, some of those issues could be that the battery died on your smart lock, right? Or the Wi-Fi connectivity dropped. If we can't reach those devices, it's hard for us to be able to put the code onto it, right? But we'll let you know. So the goal is that we try to ease some of these headaches that you have. Price, I already talked about. We try to be very fair, very competitive in the market space without lacking on quality of product and quality of service. Our setup process, I see several people on the call. I think Candace is on as well. When you walk through our onboarding process, it's very, very easy, right? We made the process incredibly easy that you can get set up with Jervis very, very easy. We also have blog posts that detail out how to get started with screenshots that show you step by step how to get both sides, the PMS side, the Hostfully side, as well as the Jervis Systems side set up. The goal is once you have it set up, set it and forget it. You don't have to keep babysitting it unless an issue pops up. And I mean, to be fully transparent, automation is nice, but it's not perfect, right? There are going to be certain issues that come up, but that's where you can reach out to our team and we can try to help you as best as we can. All right, I'm going to pause there a quick second again. Does anyone have any questions on that?
You had a question in the chat that asked about if batteries are low on the device. Do you get a notification, and what does that look like?
We do. Okay, so on our devices page, we do have a toggle that you can turn on and off. So if the battery does get low, we will send you notifications. Those will be configurable later this year. Right now, it's at a flat, I think it's 25% that we've configured it, which gives you more than adequate time. So we've kind of like gauged what property managers were looking for when we implemented that feature. That's that right threshold that gives enough time that property managers can get to the property, change the batteries, or it gives them enough time, right? Like a little cushion that if a guest is there, they don't have to rush there right away. They can wait till the reservation is over and such. Some of the updates that we will have later this year is to be able to do a little bit more configurations of the percentage that you want to be notified. One caveat with that I do want to be clear about is you got to be careful of querying the lock too much to check for the battery percentage or the battery settings, because each time you check, it is draining a little bit of battery, right? So you want to be careful with that piece of it. Okay, does that answer your question or any other questions there?
Yeah, I think that answers that. Do you know how long these, I know it probably varies from locks, but how long do batteries typically last, Bobby?
Yeah, that definitely varies, Mitch. With the Schlagen codes and code pluses, we've seen 3 to 4 months of battery life. With the Yales, approximately the same. Again, it varies on the type of the batteries. Like the batteries that are alkaline, that have a little bit more capacity, will give you better battery life. But obviously, like the higher end batteries are a little bit more expensive, right? So again, there's a lot of factors that go into this. So there's not, unfortunately, a perfect science to it. If you have a lot of guests coming through, a lot of people are typing the codes in, your mileage may vary a little bit less than someone that has someone come in a couple times a week, but they don't go in and out too much. So, but on average, I would say at least 2 to 3 months is a good estimate.
Hey, Bobby, does the climate impact the battery life at all?
From our experience, so that's a good question, Roger, because we've had some property managers in like extreme cold temperatures that have reported some issues, right? But those have been off cases that we've run across. But that's like negative 50 degrees or something like that, where it's like, okay, the battery components like started to freeze or something, things like that. But because most of the the technology is on the inside of the lock, that is inside the house, that's temperature controlled and warmer than or cooler than outside, it shouldn't have a huge effect. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, if no more questions here, Roger, let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, so creating a 5-star experience, we want to simplify your business objectives, right? So we want to make sure that you are maximizing security. Where a lot of property managers were implementing smart locks in the past, we found that they were giving the same code every time to every guest, right? So if a guest checks out, they were just issuing the same code over. That's a very, very poor security practice, right? So we don't know if a previous guest figures that out, may decide to come back, things like that. We want to automate access to your property so that way you can focus on what really matters to your business, like the customer experience, the logistics of your enterprise, your business itself. We want to make sure that we put the codes onto the locks right before the guest gets on or gets to the property, or before the guest gets to the property. And then we want to take off the code after the reservation is complete, right? So that even as the code is disabled, we will keep it on the lock for 1 day, and then we'll disable it or delete it entirely. And the reason we keep it 1 extra day or 1 day after the guest checks out is we've run into a lot of scenarios or a lot of use cases where guests may extend their stay, right? It may be a couple of hours, it may be an extra day or days. So leaving it that a little extra time helps alleviate a lot of those like extra back and forth and logistics that you may have to do. The more smart devices that we support, I hear this a lot from our property managers, is that, man, it's nice to be able to control everything from one place, right? So their thermostats, their smart locks, as we get into the sensors as well. This gives you a lot of flexibility and the ability to control it all in one place. And again, affordably, cost effectively, and reliably. That's our plan. With the smart thermostat controls, so this was, again, property manager driven, and we've implemented 2 different features with this controls, and we have what we call a guest mode and a vacant mode. Guest mode will let you set a baseline as a guest is about to check in, so that way you know what the guest is getting every time, right as they check in. The guest will be able to change it, right, as they stay at the property. They can adjust it higher, lower, whatever makes sense. But when they check out, that's where vacant mode kicks in. And this will allow you to set the temperature to what you want when the property is vacant, right? So that means that in the summertime, you don't have to worry about the AC blasting, or in the wintertime, the heat blasting as well. So it gives you a little bit of control and the ability to lower your cost, just in case, let's say, the guest raise the temperature really high or put it too low. Some of the add-ons, we've got great feedback from the community, the Jervis community, from that feature set. We've got a couple of cool add-ons that we'll be adding later this month. One of those is going to be what we're going to be calling guardrails. So even if you are allowing or setting a baseline temperature as a guest checks in, you're going to be able to configure an upper limit and a lower limit, right? And then even if the guest configures the temperature too high or too low, Jervis will catch that and then bring it back within your limits, right? So that's a feature that we'll be implementing. So all these automations hopefully makes your guest experience even better with all the other features that you're offering at your rental, and gives you the 5-star experience that you're delivering to your guests. Okay, I'm going to pause there again for a few. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we got a couple good questions, and I know it looks like Lauren's already answering that. But someone asked the difference between remote lock and Jervis. What are the benefits? Just helping them understand. I thought that was a good one to bring up.
Sure. Okay, yeah. So was just looking at the questions real quick. So between the competitors, there's more than just Remote Lock. Remote Lock, Aperto, Lynx. There's a couple of different vendors in the or different players in the space. What I tell all our property managers is try them all, right? Try Jervis. We'll give you 2 free months with Hostfully as well. And pick the one that's best for you. A lot of us do the same thing, right? I'm not going to even try to say that Jervis is tremendously different in that space. We're all connecting to the different device vendor APIs. I think what I talked about in the original slide is what differentiates us. Our pricing is very, very competitive. With our pricing, you're not sacrificing service, quality of product with what we're offering. And we're also very community driven, right? Meaning that if you find a feature that is very, very important to you, send it to us. I tell our property managers and several of you on the call today, I apologize if I'm repeating some of this stuff, but if there is a feature, we'll add it to our ticketing system. I'll talk it through with our team and with Lauren, and we'll rack and stack it. I won't promise you it'll get done tomorrow or next week, but we will get it done as long as it is a feasible feature. You'll see Lauren and Amber and our team will send polls out with our updates where we bi-weekly or monthly will send out updates that, kind of itemizes what our features are, what our bug fixes are. And Lauren will send out some polls as well saying, hey, we got these 4 or 5 feature requests. Which one is most important to you? And that's kind of how we prioritize Ecobee. We prioritize Nest. We've got a couple more in the queue based off of community feedback like that. So I hope that answers that question. But if you have any other questions, please, or if you need additional clarification, please let me know.
Yeah, similar to that point on smart locks and devices, we had a question come in on thermostat integration with Nest and being on site to integrate that. Can that be done on site or remotely? Which is a great question.
Yep. Okay, I'm just looking at chat really quickly. I see Nikias asked a question: how complicated is it to install a smart lock on an entry door? Typically, asking for a friend. Nicholas, I'm sorry. It's not complicated. I think most people can do it themselves, but if you are uncomfortable with it, you can call a locksmith and ask them to do it. But the kits that come with most of these smart locks comes with everything you need, right? So you can look up YouTube videos. I think you can do it. If I can do it, and I'm not very handy, you can do it as well, in my opinion. Kai, I see another question from Kai. Would I be liable if the previous guest still has access to the house 24 hours after checkout? So Kai, let me clarify what I said before, because that the guest does not have access 24 hours after. The code is on the lock, but it's disabled, right? So meaning that it's just stored there so that we can reactivate it or extend the time or the date if needed. We just don't remove it until 24 hours later. The previous guest will not be able to come back into the property, or the code will not work. If that makes sense. Okay, and then John, I asked the next question about remote. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Do I need to be on site to integrate this, or can it be all done remotely? Oh, okay. So with all our integrations, John, whether it's thermostats or with the smart locks, you don't have to necessarily be on site unless an issue pops up, right? So with all the smart devices, you like, for example, I think you wrote Nest. You're going to have a Nest account, right? So our pop-up when you're on the Jervis Systems dashboard and you're importing your devices, it's going to ask you for your Nest or Google Nest credentials, and then it's going to ask you to authorize Jervis to be able to do certain functions on your behalf. You don't have to be at the house to do those to do that walkthrough piece. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you need more clarification. Okay, Lauren and Mitch, I think I covered most of the questions in chat. If we're ready to go, Roger, we can go to the next slide. Okay, how to wow your guests, right? So with the pin code access, what we've learned, we've got a lot of different access capabilities, right? So Jervis, that's what Jervis started out with years ago. And we have the pin code support, we have the mobile app, we have a couple of other capabilities, the texting and the calling capabilities. What we've learned with property managers of short-term rentals is that pin code access is what most property managers want, right? Because you've got a lot going on. There's a lot of different issues you're dealing with, maybe multiple properties you're managing. So you just want to make sure that the pin is on the lock, it's confirmed to be on the lock, it's scheduled for the right time, and then it's removed just when you need it. And that's what we aim to provide for you consistently, right? So while the other features are great, and we've got customers using it for different use cases, for the short-term world, that's why we created the PMS plan, the $5 a month plan, because that's what property managers really, really want. The same thing with that plan. Actually was on an onboarding call earlier today where a property manager was asking me, is that included in the plan? Is that included in the plan? And I was like, yes, that's all included in that $5 a month plan, because I think maybe property managers are not used to each additional capability, being an extra upcharge. So we don't do that, Jervis. We would rather have happy customers that stay with us long-term. Okay, so PIN code support, thermostat, that's all included in the PMS plan. So one of the features that we offer, and I don't think it's unique to just us, but it's a feature that is very popular among our property managers, our customers, is an early check-in, late checkout offset capability, right? So this is really for a property manager's convenience. So let's say, for example, your check-in is at 3 p.m. If you configure a check-in offset for 2 hours, this means that we're going to put that code on your lock and make it active at 1 p.m. We never tell the guest about this. We don't even send it back to Hostfully. This is purely for your convenience as a property manager and for your team's convenience, right? So if you do approve early check-in, you can always message the guest and say, hey, we approved your early check-in. You could check in anytime after 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. The code is on the lock and activated at that point. So we will make sure that it's working at that point, right? There are some scenarios you may not want to put it too early, right? I've dealt with this with several property managers, and let's say you're in a location and your property is one that guests always just walk up and try to walk in early, right? Even if your check-in is at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., if a guest just it's a common occurrence for you where people are just trying to check in early, you may not want to set it too early, right? This is where you set it to 15 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you're most comfortable with, right? So every property manager's situation is going to be a little bit different. You want to adjust that accordingly based on your needs, okay? And then communication, right? So you want to provide the details to the guest as they need it. Hostfully, the integration that we have is awesome, where we can store the PIN code that we generate directly within Hostfully with your guest details, right? So now with your templates that you're sending messages to your guests, you can use the door code or door key code variable, and this will dynamically put the PIN code into the message as it's being sent out, right? So as a result, you don't ever have to promise the guest a specific code, right? For example, their last four of their phone number or things like that. While that was okay when we're manually plugging in codes into a lock ourselves, from an automation perspective, we found that that is problematic, right? Because there's a lot of reasons where that phone number may not have come through to us. It could be that there's a couple of scenarios I'll just go through very quickly. Let's say on Airbnb, you have a guest that booked with multiple friends, right? So there may be 4 phone numbers that come through to Hostfully, right? So the order of those phone numbers may not be what the guest is expecting or what we receive and we use to create the code, right? So it may not be what the guest is expecting. There may be conflicts where you already, or there may be a code on the lock already that is the same pin code. So the Schlags, the August, many of the locks have the same limitation that you cannot use the same pin code twice, even if it's for two different guests for different time frames. So it's a known issue with many of these locks that it's not something we can get around, right? So if we run into a conflict with generating or storing the code based off the guest's phone number, rather than go back and forth with you or just waste your time, we're just going to generate a random code and store it on the lock and then store it with Hostfully, right? So we highly encourage property managers not to promise the code to be based off the guest phone number, and then just dynamically use the Hostfully variable in your messaging so that the code just gets put into the email as it's being sent. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second as well. Lauren and Mitch, do we have any questions there?
We had Cesar ask about verifying if it's the actual client showing up to the residence. And I don't know if you guys don't do guest verification, correct, Bobby?
We don't do guest verification. That's correct.
Gotcha. So just to throw this out there, Cesar, we can follow up afterwards too. But there's plenty of different ways, from guest pre-arrival forms to gathering all the guest info and who all the guests that are going to be staying at the property, as well as tapping into some Wi-Fi, some guest screening as well. And we have several integrations at Hostfully that would do exactly that. Now, it's not saying you have to be with Hostfully, but it obviously always helps to have that integration. So we can send you some good stuff on that, Cesar.
We got another question in from John T. What happens to the system when a power outage occurs?
Okay, great question. Thanks for catching that, Lauren. So John, the way we work is that we process reservations 2 weeks out, right? So last year, if you were with us last year, we were processing years out, right? So whatever reservation that you had, we were just processing it as a code comes in. So if you had reservations into 2023, 2024, we were just storing them on the lock. We started running into scenarios where property managers were actually hitting limits on the locks with how many codes you can actually handle. So some of these locks have only slots for 50 codes for guests, 100 codes for guests, right? So as a limitation for that, or as a workaround to get around these limitations, what we did is we have a 2-week rolling window where we pull in reservations that are only within that window, and then we put them on the lock. So if you had a power outage that day, let's say that where the guest checks in, because these locks are not, because we store the code onto the lock 2 weeks prior to the reservation, the code should be there, right? So the caveats to that being that, let's say you had a power outage it's a last minute booking and you had a power outage that day. At that point, it's a bit out of our control. If we can't access the lock, we're not going to be able to put the code on it. There's a couple of pieces that I do want to get to in the next slide, or slide 7, where I'll bring this up again also, but we always recommend having a backup code. Have 2 of them, right, for these types of scenarios. And you can always clean them up or change them afterwards, but you always have a backup plan just in case Wi-Fi goes down or some kind of connectivity issue happens. Does that answer your question, John, or do you need additional clarification there? Okay, we can come back to that. But John, I think as long as we have connectivity to your locks, since we put the reservations 2 weeks plus, I think that would solve your problem as far as the power outage. As long as I saw your second message, you live in an area which is prone to outages. As long as you come back online and the lock is back connected back to Wi-Fi and we can connect to it, Jervis is just going to keep trying and putting the code onto the lock, right? So we will put the code on there as long as we can get access to it. And if you have an outage on the day that the guest checks in, hopefully the code is on there because it was given to us a week before or 2 weeks before. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. And then Cesar, I see that you said, sorry, I lost you. I'm having a poor connection. I missed your answer.
I'm just typing up a message to Cesar. So
Okay, awesome.
I will cover
Okay.
that one for us, Bobby.
Okay, awesome, Mitch. All right. Roger, if we can
Hey,
go
Bobby,
to...
if we do a quick time check, we've got 15 minutes remaining, and I just want to make sure we stay on schedule here. So I'm going to move to your next slide.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so how to automate and streamline reservations. So Jervis Systems was built by property managers, just like Hostfully mentioned as well. This started out as a rental that I have in Ashburn. I was trying to solve a problem that I was trying to work on. I had a day job. I was trying to, I wanted to do a rental, but not be there to check in every guest, right? I wanted to find a way to automate it. And I had other property managers in this area asking about it. And then that's kind of how Jervis started. So our goal is to make your life as easy as possible. And then the goal is to make these repeatable tasks automated, or as automated as we possibly can, and streamline your business processes and free up your time to be able to do other pieces that are very, very important to your business. Okay, Roger, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so keyless guest access, we provide PIN code support, like I mentioned. There's, I already mentioned that we do try to put the code based on the guest's phone number. If we run into conflicts of any sort, that's where we do the random code itself. And then we put the code onto the lock and then remove it once the reservation is complete within 1 day. Okay. There's a couple of pieces that I do want to kind of highlight here, or tips as far as the locks go, but I'll actually save that for the next slide. Let me pause here for a quick second. Does anyone have any questions here?
Yeah, we do have a couple of follow-up questions. John T. asked, related to the power outage question, sometimes during storm season, we can be without power for several days. Will the clients and guests still be able to use the locks without power? It
will. Yeah, exactly, John. These locks, they are battery powered, right? So as long as the lock battery is okay, the guests will still be able to get into the property, get out of the property. We need Wi-Fi access to be able to put the codes onto the lock and then remove the code. If your lock, let's say, drops off because of Wi-Fi or because of power connectivity issues, we will do that process of adding and removing the next time we can actually get to your lock, right? And we'll send you notifications when there's issues and all that as well. But because they're battery powered, that issue is the concern that you have should be mitigated. Okay, Lauren, any other questions?
Yeah, we had one question from John Bergeson. 2 weeks out for new codes, but if I get same day reservation, can you handle that as well? I responded to that saying, yes, we can send out codes for same day reservations and bookings. That's not a problem for us.
Correct, yeah. So I want to caveat that and be transparent here is if it is very last minute, there's a lot of moving parts, right? Automation is awesome. It's great when it works, but there's a lot of moving parts, right? So Airbnb, VRBO has to send the notification to Hostfully. Hostfully has to send the notification to us, and we have to create the code on the lock, right? So the process could take 15 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes much quicker than that, as long as the lock is connected to Wi-Fi and has good connectivity. We can do a lot quicker, but Yes, to exactly what Lauren said. As long as we get these notifications and we can process it, we will take care of that. Okay, Lauren, any other questions there?
We have one more from John, which I think ties into our next slide really well.
Okay.
We're talking about smart locks, recommended brands, and the question is, for some smart locks, there's a required subscription plan. So in our case, does Jervis Systems make this unnecessary? Or John's asking, would I still need a subscription with the lock hardware company as well?
Correct. So if you are purchasing a lock, we recommend these lock vendors like the Schlage and Code Plus, and the Yale Assure 2. This is a new lock that just got released mid last year, and it's a direct comparable lock to the Schlage and Code Pluses. These don't have subscription plans. I mean, we recommend purchasing a lock that does not have a subscription plan. We pay licensing fees to the vendors, so that takes care of what the end user would have to pay, right? So you would subscribe to Jervis. Jervis in the background takes care of the fees and the licensing with the vendors. But if you want recommendations, or if there's a lock that you're looking to purchase, contact us through our page. When we get to the last slide, I'll leave those details. We'll be glad to do some research before you go out and purchase something that has subscriptions, and make some recommendations to you there as well. All right, Lauren, before we get to questions, I'm going to throw in some quick highlights. These are recommendations for our smart locks. There's a couple of tips that I wanted to throw out to the team here. And we highly recommend getting a lock that is directly Wi-Fi accessible, right? So these smart locks have come a long way in the last couple of years. The locks that I'm presenting here, they don't have any Wi-Fi hubs or Wi-Fi adapters. There's no hubs involved. You want a lock that is directly Wi-Fi accessible. You're going to find that the performance is night and day better, and the battery life is going to be way better, right? So take a look at these locks, or look at other locks that are directly Wi-Fi accessible, and you'll find that your overall experience is going to be tremendously better. Another tip that we've learned over the years, I think a lot of property managers do this, but I'll just throw this out to the community here, is make sure when you set these locks up, you set them up for 4-digit PIN codes, right? So when you set them up, usually the number of digits that you use, especially the Schlages, are sensitive to this. If you set it up with 8 digits, all future guest codes are going to be 8 digits, right? So you want to make sure you're setting it up with the right number of digits. 4 digits is that perfect number that guests will remember easily, and it's not insecure, right? It's not a 2-digit combo. So you want to do at least a 4-digit PIN. I already mentioned this before, but you don't want to promise the guest the PIN based off their phone number. I know it's nice and easy for a guest to remember, but we've done thousands of reservations, and a 4-digit PIN, especially when you dynamically put it into the message based off the Hostfully template and variable, guests will remember that, and it's easy enough. I believe you won't receive any problems from the guest on that. All right, so automation is not always perfect, right? So this is one thing I wanted to highlight on this, and Candace, I apologize for the double tap here, but have a backup plan or have a backup code or two, right? So Wi-Fi connectivity may drop, which happens with power outages, ISP issues in the local area. There could be a variety of issues, right? So always have a backup code or two, right? So if any issue happens that we can't put a code onto the lock, or it's last minute reservation and you have an outage, at least you have a code that you can give to your guest. When the guest checks out, you can always just go and delete that code, right? So that's a fallback. Batteries might die as well, so keep an eye on that. Turn on the battery alerts. Check periodically. Maybe it's every month. Put a reminder on your calendar to just go check in the Schlage app or the Yale app, see what the percentage is at, and just keep an eye on it. We're going to notify you, but try to be proactive with this if you can as well. It'll save you a lot of headache and hassle down the road. Another piece is that I wanted to throw out is we've got a lot of property managers doing this now, is we have a great partnership with Masterlock. And Master Lock has these key code enabled locks that you can mount to a wall, right? So this is your fallback in case the battery dies. All these other issues that we talked about, you can store a backup key. And the way the integration works with Master Lock is that there's a rolling code. So every 4 hours, the code changes. And because we have the integration with Master Lock, we know what the code is going to be on the Master Lock lockbox every 4 hours, right? So within our Jervis Systems mobile app, you're going to see what the code is. You can share this with your guest if you need to, or your cleaning company, or your handyman, whoever needs to get inside the house. But that's an absolute worst case scenario backup plan that you can have as well. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. Does anyone have any questions?
Just a comment from Candace saying she appreciates us being candid, and having a backup plan is always really important. So she's excited to jump into the system.
Candace, I keep remembering you because that exact scenario with the Master Lock, I know you were running into a problem this morning. So it just kind of keeps staying on my mind today. All right, so let's go to the next slide, Roger, please. All right, so cleaning company codes. This is a feature property managers ask for. And the problem that we're solving here is no more leaving an always on code for your cleaning company, right? So that could be disclosed accidentally. Maybe the cleaning company comes in too early, as a guest, before a guest gets to check out. So the goal with this is that we give access to a cleaning company just when they need it, right? So right as a guest checks out, from the checkout time until the next check-in time, that's the cleaning period, right? So that's the time that they have access to it. We're going to keep iterating. We've already got awesome feedback from the community to add offsets to the cleaning company access, to be able to add notifications, custom codes, so that we're going to keep improving the feature set for cleaning companies. But the goal that we want to solve for property managers here is never leave an always on code, right? So whether you have another one we're going to be adding is primary alternate codes if you have multiple cleaning companies. But we want to solve that problem and get rid of that security risk of keeping an always on code that you had to share to your cleaning company. Okay, I'm going to pause there a second. Any questions on that?
You are good to go, Bobby.
Okay, awesome. All right, Roger, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so smart thermostat control. I already talked about this pretty in depth earlier when we were talking about the devices. So we allow you to be able to set the baseline as guests check in, and then the vacant mode will set the default you want when a guest checks out, right? So we've got Ecobee support. We're in beta testing support with the Nest right now, just waiting on final approval from the Google team. And then Honeywell is next on our list as well. Okay, so easy management. So our goal is to keep integrating smart devices. If there's specific vendors that you're looking for, send it to us. I already got a couple of great recommendations from various onboarding calls that I've done today. So we're reaching out to those teams and seeing if we can work on partnerships, or if they have open APIs already and we can start that work already. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. Any questions on this slide here?
Nothing coming in right now.
Okay, and then last bit here is feel free to contact us, right? So with every person that signs up, whether you have one property or hundreds of properties, we'll walk you through getting your first property set up. Within 30 minutes or less, we'll get you onboarded. And from there, you can add your other properties as you get time. This slide says we're offering a free 1-month trial, but for Hostfully users, we're actually offering a 2-month trial. So there's a coupon code that we've sent to the Hostfully team that I think it's in the marketplace, right, Mitch? They can see that there, or the team there can send it to you. If you have specific questions, feel free to contact us. That's our webpage and our contact us form. We'll get back to you. Like I said, if there's devices that you're looking at purchasing, but you're not sure if we can support the automation, send it to us. Let us do some research before you spend money on it. And then there's also recommendations of our recommended hardware that we've had great success, right, over the years with customers using it. So we can always give recommendations as well. Okay, I'm going to pause there again. Does anyone have any questions?
We just had one question on clarifying for KS, and KS is with Salto, the Salto brand.
That's correct. Yeah.
The question was
you,
QuickSet. Is that available?
Yeah, so Salto is one of the companies that we've recently integrated with a couple of months ago. So that gets us into the co-working spaces, so office spaces. So if you know anybody interested in access from for business spaces, that is something we support as well. We're working with a couple of other brands that we will integrate in that space as well. But QuickSet is not there. I'm working on it with the QuickSet, but there's partnership agreements and details that has to be still worked out. Okay, any other questions?
I think that just about covers it.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll try to wrap things up now. It's we're out of time, and Bobby and Lauren, we appreciate you guys sharing with us the world of smart automation. It seems like it's changing every day, and fascinating stuff. And we got some great questions today, so I hope we got everyone's questions answered. Thank you to Hostfully customers and Jervis customers who participated on this call today. I really hope you got something good out of this. And we're going to continue to showcase our partners here in the coming weeks as well. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. If you're interested in additional information, we will be following up with you via email. And we hope this was a good 60-minute use of your time today. And thanks to Mitch, and thanks to everybody else for making this happen today. Wish you guys a great rest of your day and a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, team. Have a good day.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right.